r/AskReddit. Serious, how dangerous is it to attend a cult meeting just as a joke? I joined a soccer club as a way to meet friends in a new city, Seoul. This great organization never mentioned religion. They also offered free cooking classes, free language classes, free dance classes, all the expensive helping foreigners and to practice their English. That was until they were exposed as a front for the SJ Church. They mainly used foreigners as propaganda with our t-shirts and cult signs that we, foreigners, were clueless about at the time. It was scary how caught up you can become. A friend of mine had a similar situation, except she joined a Bible study only to find out it was also that cult. 6 months after she found out and tried to leave, they harassed her both at her work, at her house, to point of having to leave notes and call the police on them. Too many crazies out there. SJ Church? After doing some research, apparently it's SCJ, short for Scientology Church of Jesus, the Temple of the Tabernacle of the Testimony, I guess commonly known as a cult in South Korea. I'd link to the Wikipedia page, but there's nothing there. This guy's blog about running into them is entertaining though. Who would the joke be on? Exactly? Cults don't care what your reason for attending a meeting is. Once you are on their turf, they know they have a chance. A friend of mine, who considered himself a hard-nosed businessman, told me he was going to a timeshare meeting to laugh at them and claim his free gift. He bought a timeshare. Edit. I apologize. My point isn't about timeshares, but about the power of persuasion. My wife wanted to go to one of these for the free gift, so we go. Then she wanted to buy one. I told her she was an idiot, in a nice way, and told the sales scum that they could stick their package up their ass when they wouldn't back off. Great way to ruin one day of your vacation, if that's your goal. Yep. Also a great way to watch them try and weasel out of anything they've promised as compensation for attending. I had one in Orlando that the wife and I attended while on vacation. Due to the weather being hitty. At the presentation, when they asked what I thought about timeshares, I said I think they're stupid. When the follow-up was, if you think they're so stupid, why did you come? I responded, because the weather is terrible today, and you guys promised me cash for listening. Since I already had park tickets, they decided that they didn't owe me cash because I wasn't engaging enough with their product at the end. We went back to our hotel, which this particular group had a little booth set up at, and I found the guy who had tricked me into going. I told him that he owed me money, since his company hadn't paid me, and naturally he decided he didn't. So I spent the next hour interrupting every pitch he made to guests, explaining that both he and the company he worked for were liars. Finally, he paid me the promised cash to go away. It was frustrating, but I won. It depends on the cult really. Scientology? Stay away from it. Unless you are already a part of the cult, you'll probably only be allowed to recruitment meetings. If you do, try not to give out personal information because some will hound you to join them. Check them out online to see if they have had any controversy to them, such as ex-members talking about bad things they were made to do or crimes involving members or leaders. Edit. The reason I say stay away from Scientology is because of the things they have been said to do. Some people are saying that even though they gave fake info, they still get mail from them. It's likely they look for your personal information another way. So unless you want that happening to you, it's better to be safe than sorry. I dropped a fake name and address when asked at the local Scientology church. Still ended up getting letters every few months asking me to come back, or at least buy some of their advanced materials. I went to satisfy my curiosity, but it's been more trouble than it's worth. Well, that's unsettling. How do you think they got your real information? Don't do it. Stay at home and watch a documentary about Jim Jones instead. Cults can be seriously scary stuff, and we are all a bit more easily influenced than we'd like believe. I have a good friend who was working on a sociology paper on a particular cult, and I don't recall which it was. He attended a few meetings to get a feel for it. I remember him saying that he knew everyone was crazy, but it was a nice community. He'd talked to me about going to have a nice potluck dinner, and then receiving a sermon on how Obama is the biblical Antichrist. After he was done with the paper, he went back a few more times, Then they found out he's gay. And that was that. What was that though? Did they give him the boot or did they attack him? They will love to have you. And be assured, it will very likely seem innocuous. If you want to go because you want to see weird hit, you'll likely be disappointed. And before you realize it, you'll be coming back for more. Source: escaped a cult about 15 years ago. Really depends on the cult and your degree of awareness about what's going on. It's trite, but it's true. Some cults are really good at not seeming like cults, and usually your introduction to them will not be in the form of a meeting at all, but a one-on-one interaction or a group setting that is not clearly related to an organization. They'll introduce you to the beliefs first in a very egalitarian way, and the actual power structures won't emerge until much later, with the leader or leaders of the cult actually blending in very well with the group when they want to, as opposed to the very cliche portrayal of the exalted messianic leader and the obviously crazy and adoring followers. Everything that's going to set off the alarms in your head isn't going to come until much later, and you're going to be made to feel like you were a participant in its creation somehow, even though everything about it predated your involvement. Edit. I could go on and on about this. Oftentimes they'll even mirror your level of acceptance of the ideas, as if you're coming to these conclusions together. Or there will be a token skeptical person who is part of their group, but makes only poor arguments against their ideas, which makes skepticism seem stupid. Eventually you get so invested in the group socially, financially, etc. that when the really crazy ideas start to come out you just accept them, because the alternative is having to acknowledge the sunk cost of everything you actually did work for being a lie. That's why cults often have such high functioning, useful people to be parasites on who are nonetheless devoted. They know it's bullshit, but it's too late for them to know it's bullshit and not pay a terrible price for it. So they go along. Don't even acknowledge it to themselves. Some extremely intelligent people have been lured into cults. So you never know. Like me. Just kidding. I'm so dumb. When they find out my Ike, they'll pay me to leave. No, they'll promote you to a senior role. Enjoyed the story. Cracked up when I reached dessert, better be worth it. When I was in college on a job attachment, I met a lady working there who was really nice. Had a couple of conversations with her relating to an essay I had to do, and she invited me to the place she's staying. She's from another country, so I just assumed she stays with friends or renting. Turned out she stayed with about 9 other young ladies, all really nice people. We sang songs and chatted, and it felt like there was a real sense of warmth and camaraderie. I just felt that their living arrangement was somewhat unusual. I found out later that all aspects of their life were controlled by the organization, and they worked but surrendered their salaries. Anyway, I'm not sure whether it's considered a cult. They're an offshoot of a major religion. A cult is a cult is a cult is a cult. Depends on your mental state. And if you give them any information, do not give them any information. And be prepared for some of the nonsense they spout to make a weird amount of sense. Every cult starts by offering universally comforting platitudes. You are loved and valuable. There is a purpose to your life. You can achieve the things you dream of if you have the right motivation and support. You would be amazed how nice this can sound to someone who's having a rough time. They're not offering you aliens and superpowers at first. They're offering you friendship, connections, motivation, nice practical things you might be lacking. Then they get your info and drop the alien hit on you. But by then you're too deep into the sunk cost fallacy to question it. People who think they're too smart for cults are some of the easiest to recruit. I would stay away. There are likely many people who only stopped in out of curiosity and got sucked in. Around 1983 or so, I was in the Air Force stationed in Southern California. While on base, my buddies and I ran into a group of really cute girls. They were really flirty and friendly and started talking with us. About an hour of talking, they invited us to go with them to a meeting. We tagged along, thinking that we might get laid at some time during the night. Long story short, it was a Scientology indoctrination meeting. It was like an initial contact kind of thing, and the girls were just sent out to recruit new members. I was, and still am, an atheist, and pretty cynical at the time. I've mellowed with age. So when we got to the center, I saw it for what it was right away. I pulled my buddies aside and told them that no, we're not going to get laid. And they're just trying to recruit us into some bullshit, so we decided to just duck with them, giving insane answers when they started doing their audits. I only learned later this was called an audit or whatever. They got frustrated pretty quickly and we just left. They didn't even offer to drive us back to the base, so we had to call a cab. Can you give an example of what they asked and what you replied? Sounds funny though. My friends and I created a joke cult when we were young teens and distributed flyers around town telling people to join us, give us their belonging because they wouldn't need them on the space shuttle, signing over monetary savings, and other stuff that we thought was obvious satire. To us it was a stupid joke from bored kids in a small Midwestern town and we didn't think many would take it serious. People actually started contacting the email we made for the flyer and rumors got started about a possible group suicide which led to police investigating us. There was talk of the FBI getting involved but I don't know if there is truth behind that. Thanks for the good read, Mr. Glazed Donut Glory Hole. You're welcome. While it isn't technically a cult, my mom has been involved in a pyramid scheme for years, Primerica, that has very cult-like tendencies. For example, they have meetings twice a week that all of the members are forced to attend. They are not paid to attend these. But if they don't attend they'll disappoint their boss, which they all seem terrified of. Despite the fact that the guy is a high school dropout who can't even write a coherent sentence. They also are supposed to constantly listen to these motivational speaker CDs in their cars and repeat various mantras as part of the brainwashing. My mom made the mistake of going off script on a post she made on Facebook once and got a nasty letter from headquarters saying that if she went off script on social media again that they would fine her. My mom is an otherwise very intelligent woman who has a business degree, but she got sucked into Primerica by her dirtbag boyfriend. Back before she joined herself. She had asked me to try attending a meeting as a favor to her, so I did, and the whole thing was obviously a huge scam. The people were all patting themselves on the back about getting super rich, but the parking lot was full of broken down old neons and a lantras held together by duct tape. The office was a rickety old storefront in a mini-mall with stained old carpet appealing wallpaper. They had cheap posters hung up with their motivational phrases on the walls, including one that openly showed the pyramid structure of the company. At the meeting they all congratulated each other quite a bit on their wonderful success and then took us visitors aside and gave us a hard sales pitch. The boss was every bit as greasy as a used car salesman and had a similar complete lack of charisma. He found out that one of the visitors was a semester away from getting her nursing degree, so he suggested that she drop out of college and do Primerica full time instead. The second that he left, me and the other visitors concurred that it was an obvious pyramid scheme and we left. There wasn't any real danger from this beyond wasting a bit of time. I was careful to not give them any of my contact information. And thankfully my mom isn't the type to give out my information to them either, so I haven't been harassed by them at all. Did the girlfriend soak it all up, or was she as creeped out as you? Well, she is kind of a mystical weirdo in her own way. She soaks it but she does not really join it. She has a weird kind of blend between Christian Eastern Sufi beliefs which are really out there. In their eyes, what she said was of the devil. Took quite a strain on our relation, if I have to be honest. I got really angry with her brother at the end of the trip. I live in Chicago and in the mid 1990s I was really into religion and also chasing girls. So I decided to do both and joined a Bible study group to meet nice Christian girls. I was 20 so my brains were in my ass. The Bible study group had about 8 people with a few girls who seemed okay. But the time I spent with them wasn't any fun. Yes, I learned a great deal about details in the Bible that I had missed in my own study. But they were getting more and more extreme in their beliefs. I would only devote a couple of evenings a week to the group. But then they decided to hold regular study for 4 days a week and I was heavily criticized for missing any. Then the group leader decided we needed to start taking part in groups with religious causes to help increase the size of the Bible study group and expand it into a real ministry. At this point my brains transitioned slightly up from my ass towards the small of my back and I realized I'm in way over my head. I don't like these people. I was trying to meet a Christian girl to date but they were all deranged. So I said duck it. I'm out. Then they're constantly calling me and knocking on my door to get me to come with them back to Bible study and threatening me with hellfire if I don't come back. I sort of lucked out when another member tried to leave, and a physical altercation resulted in the police getting involved. The so-called Bible study group and wannabe ministry broke apart after that. I consider myself lucky they weren't more aggressive, but they were moving that way fast. I still think that son of a bitch who styled himself as the leader of the group probably tried to get the whole thing going again with another group. When I was in college, some friends and I used to go to the Hare Krishna feed every week. None of us were ever going to get sucked in, but the food was always pretty awesome. So we went for the free meal. No. Yeah. Free food is a perfectly legitimate reason to attend a cult meeting. Just up. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Yeesh. Yep. Good times had by all. One of my jobs was to tidy up staff personnel files. Bear in mind I had been there less than a full day at this point, and I am reading things about people I had just met that I doubt their parents knew. Like the woman who was training me had in her file about how she had been sexually abused by a family member. I had literally met her just that day. What the hell do you do with that kind of info? During and I think after the FBI investigation of David Koresh and his cult, which climaxed in with the Waco Seeker, the investigators had to take turns viewing the tapes of Koresh's speeches in shifts. Not because they were disturbing, but so they didn't start believing him as well. This guy was so charismatic and good at speaking that FBI investigators were seriously tempted to believe him. Imagine how much damage such a person can do to the mind of an average Joe. Hell. You don't have to imagine. Just look up the Waco Seeker or Johnstown, where the cult leader persuaded hundreds of people to drink a poisoned Kool-Aid knockoff. This is how cults gain members. Even seriously intelligent people can be lulled and persuaded and brainwashed until it's too late. Spare your mind. Spare your intelligence, your personality, and your free will. Don't go. Not even as a joke. Because even the best of us can get pulled in. Watch documentaries. Read books. Binge Wikipedia all you want. From the safety of your home. But for the love of all that is good in this world, never go to an actual meeting. Edit. Spelling. Grammar. And emphasis. I've honestly been curious about this. Always wanted to check out Scientology to really see from the inside how bsit crazy it is. But scared they'll just take me out. Yeah, if you went to a Scientology thing, how easy would it be to just get brainwashed? It's somewhat dangerous. They don't immediately pull out the e-meters and start whacking you over the head with them. But they count on you being too polite, intimidated to say no to them. If you do manage to duck out of their clutches, they will harass you with phone calls and letters trying to get you to come back for years. If you see a stress test table in public, it's worth doing just for laughs. But don't go into their buildings looking for something to laugh about. They really don't like that. I would suggest against it. There are so few good things that can come out of it and so many bad things that can happen. If someone sees you, it could start rumors. They could hound you or bug you. Once a SGI member visited me at my door and I tried to be nice because he said he was from the neighborhood. He started visiting me regularly and he wouldn't leave unless I took one of his magazines. Earworks leave letters in my mailbox inviting me to things. Before I knew it, there was a huge stack on my table. When I started to refuse them, he would stuff them in my mailbox and there was no room for my regular mail. Finally, a repairman saw the magazines on my table and gave me a funny look. I was mortified. I was so embarrassed. Finally, I took the whole stack of magazines and flyers and notes and made his wife take them back and made her promised trip make him stop and told her anything else was going in the garbage. And finally he stopped. It's not worth it. If you are curious, just Google them. The problem is that you don't know if it's a religion or a cult until you try to leave. Sometimes you don't realize you're in the meeting until it's too late. When I was a kid, I played the guitar and the neighbor's kids invited me over to play music with them. I didn't really know them, but they seemed nice, so I went for a visit, and next thing I knew I was sitting in a circle on the floor with some adults and mostly kids, and we were holding hands and praying, and all the music was this overzealous Christian hit. I was invited back to a BBQ with my parents. My parents didn't believe me when I said they were crazy. They thought they were just Christians. Until the BBQ, where a similar thing happened. Everyone was holding hands and praying, and then they were discussing all this religious doomsday crap. They invited us to their church and didn't leave my mum and dad alone for a while. Super awkward and creepy. Depends entirely on the cult. Some cults are just new age hippie crap. But a lot of them are very dangerous and manipulative. The thing about cults is that they seem perfectly fine on the surface. They'd never get members if they were openly insane. It's only after you get sucked in with no way out do they show their true colors. Cults are very persuasive. They have to be. People don't join for the religious beliefs most of the time, but for the sense of community and belonging. A lot of otherwise level-headed people attend a meeting just to check it out, see a bunch of friendly smiles and allegedly happy people, and then think to themselves, this isn't so bad. That's how they get you. They don't tell you that in 3 months they all commit suicide to ascend into the alien mothership at the first meeting. That only happens once you're already a dedicated member. It's fine. Enjoy. I sat in on a Hare Krishna style cult meeting once. The guy said we have nightmares of being chased because of the bad karma from eating animals. He recommends nuts and tofu and had a weird spaced out look in his eyes. I had the free Hare Krishna feast one afternoon. It was tasty. No hard sell. I met with the Red Bus Jews for Jesus guys who follows the dead and fish around recruiting. They were nice. Krishna cookies. One of my favorite podcasts is Oh No Ross and Carrie. They join all sorts of weird organizations, Scientology, Mormonism, Christian Scientists, laugh yoga, and talk about their experiences. Satisfies my curiosity without actually joining anything. It would depend on the cult. I would assume since they try to recruit new people you should use a fake name and a throwaway phone number. And switch off your phone, so that Facebook does not rat out your name to the cult members via its friend's suggestion. And don't go to the place with your car, they'll scan your license plate and use it to find your real info. Cult leaders are good at sniffing out your weak points and leveraging them. Every rational argument you make is never something new, it's something they've heard before, come to terms with, and developed coping strategies to convince themselves that what they are hearing is motivated by greed, ignorance, or hatred. They'll listen to all of your points, never really digesting them, because they don't need to. They've heard them all before, and waiting for you to give them an opening. All it takes is one tiny bit of uncertainty. And these people will take that and carve an opening into your entire life from it. They'll wait until you assert a point that you don't fully understand the axioms of or are making secondhand. They'll assert that they have intimate knowledge of these things. And you'll find yourself disarmed. They're no different from business leaders, religious zealots, because they typically are, parental figures, political leaders, or anyone else who is able to cultivate a following. Their sociopathic tendencies immediately make them dangerous to you because you aren't prepared for how easily they're able to break your armor and how intuitively they're able to understand you. And because you've spent your whole life laughing at their truths while they've spent theirs profiling people like you. Cataloging your responses in the paths conversations tend to follow after. And adopting tactics to indoctrinate you. They're relentless. They're shameless. And they don't care if you don't join. They have nothing on the line and you have everything. Thanks for watching and be sure to subscribe to RedditQueen for the best daily content.